without using any country law in the world, why murder is wrong.
I really hate when I have to make this argument because it's one of the most ignorant arguments for creationism I've ever heard, but I was tagged in it, so here we go. Christians are always saying, well, atheists only have a sense of morality because it's God's law written on their hearts. No, dummy. Think about it like this. If I were a caveman back in the dawn of humanity, and I get punched in the face, and it hurts, and I don't like the feeling, maybe that's enough evidence for me to say, chances are, maybe this other cave person doesn't like it either. So we're gonna establish a law that says, you can't do this to me, and I can't do this to you. And by the way, your whole concept of the Bible being this, written word of law is based on a little thing called the Golden Rule that existed a long time before Christianity. It really doesn't take that much thinking, and this person's asking for maybe a scientific response. It doesn't need science. It's common sense.
This TikToker may think he's saying something clever, but he's actually very confused. The biggest problem with his response is that it equivocates on the definition of wrong. His answer to why murder is wrong is essentially that we as a society agreed to abide by some rules we made up so we can get along. Unfortunately, this reply betrays the assumption that the word wrong here means something we don't like, or something we agreed is socially taboo. I bet you my house this isn't the definition of wrong the questioner had in mind. The question isn't why we don't like murder. It isn't why we have a general agreement not to murder one another. The question is why every individual has a forcefully binding moral obligation not to commit murder regardless of what anyone thinks or says, and why someone who does commit murder is deserving of moral blame. The challenge to the atheist is what explanatory resources he has in his worldview to account for the existence of this kind of strong, authoritative obligation. I want to be very clear here. We're not looking for a story about what produces in us the feeling of having this moral obligation. We're looking for an explanation of the obligation itself. Once we understand what's meant by the word wrong, it becomes clear that this TikToker didn't answer the question at all. But can we Christians do any better? I certainly think so, but not in the way this TikToker suggests. It's obviously absurd to say that no one would know murder is wrong unless they learned it from the Bible. Instead, what we propose is that God is the best explanation for the existence of moral obligations, because as the greatest conceivable being, he serves as the ultimate standard of goodness, and therefore our obligations flow from his commands authoritatively communicated through divine revelation, reason, and conscience. This provides us with that extra oomph factor that's absent in every naturalistic attempt to explain morality.